let's see. Okay. Mishnah is important, it's not like, so like, all right. Okay, Isaac's there, Yavni's there, Alice, Andre, Jacob, Joel, myself. Okay, one more person will have a quorum. All the Agadatot that start with the Shimon Bar Yochai, what do they center on? Cheryl's in the kitchen saying being difficult. Be a difficult guy. I think that's good. We'll go with that. So the whole question is with him, because well, it started because somebody praised the Romans, but it's all about him in the cave, and that's the big question. Can you get, double-fold question, can you get the Rebbe out of the cave? And then later on, can you get the cave out of the Rebbe? That's the two parts of the whole story. Okay. So I'm interested with you in the Gemara to find those subjects and those nuances that will generate halacha. And there's a lot of parts that are, well, okay, no apologies tonight. We moved to Israel. How many years ago, Cheryl? 28 years ago. First Lag BaOmer, my young son Isaac was, thank God, for the first year, will he make friends, invited to a party in some kind of a wilder part of town. Cheryl gave me the address where to pick him up. I went to pick him up, and there were massive fires and half-naked boys whose whole bodies were covered with suits, jumping over the fires from one to the other. And that's where I found my wild son. I said, okay, he found his country. He found his friends, Oiveh. So how do they get the fire out of the boy? Okay, so fine, let's get to the Mishnah. And let's read, and I have comments, and let's see if that will allow us to make some progress. So Andre, read the Mishnah, please, and Kuf Chet Amid Aleph.
טיפת חלב שנפלה, that one.
Yeah.
טיפת חלב שנפלה על חתיכה, אם יש בה בנותן טעם, באותה חתיכה אסור.
Okay, I'm going to do this in order to move. I'm going to do this Gemara with Rashi. Okay, I'm going to assume that, then we'll see, how. But that's how we're going to do it. So read the Rashi there. Tipat chalav shenafla chaticha. This is the Reisha. Wait, did we do the full Reisha? Im yesh bo noten tam b'ota chaticha asur. Okay, Rashi.
בתוך הקדרה על אחת מן החתיכות, ולא הגיס את הקדרה, ולא נחלק טעם הטיפה, אלא לאותה חתיכה בלבד.
Yeah, he just sets it up very nicely, right? Very specified. What else I want to say? So wait, did Rashi say, Im yesh ba benoten tam, do that Rashi?
אם יש בה בנותן טעם באותה חתיכה, כלומר שאין באותה חתיכה לבדה 60 לבטל הטיפה, מיד נאסרת החתיכה. ובשאר חתיכות דקדרה לא איירי, טענה דמתניתין וגמרא פליגי בה, אם חוזרת אותה חתיכה.
טענה מתניתין, ובגמרא פליגי בה,
אם חוזרת אותה חתיכה ואוסרתן או לא.
Yeah, right. The Gemara develops the whole question, the missing development. And so, okay, so even though I'm doing this with Rashi, Rashi provides for us the cracks in the seam, because here in the Mishnah, there doesn't seem to be any discussion about the future vocation of this chaticha. All it talks about is this chaticha and nothing about the future vocation. It's like and should be like a surprise to us if something else comes up, unless of course we read Rashi. So we did that. So now do the seifa near at the in the Mishnah.
ניער את הקדרה, אם יש בה בנותן טעם באותה קדרה, אסור.
Okay, explain.
So if you mixed the top, the pot, and then there is a flavor that expands all over it, and then everything is asur.
Read Rashi near את הקדרה.
ניער את הקדרה, הגיס בה מיד קודם שקיבלה חתיכת העם, מן הטיפה, דאשתא נתערבה הטיפה בכולן. So just the moment the tipa falls into the piece, they mix everything, and so it contaminates all the pieces.
Yeah, contaminate's a good term. I like that term. In other words, okay, fine. And we have any avoidance of any problem? Sorry, just talking. Any avoidance of any problem? Does Rashi help us with anything? Helps us a lot. Does he help us with anything not as, because it's kodem shekibla chaticha tam shel hatipa, right? What does that help us with the least? What halachic problem does that avoid in this interpretation?
Maybe the chaticha is big enough to batel the tipa of chalav.
Well, no. So that's the next Rashi. Read the next Rashi. Yesh ba benoten tam.
כלומר, אין כוח בטיפה לאסור כולן, אלא אם כן יש בנותן טעם ליתן בכל הקדר.
Right. I was just going to say, before it avoids the problem of ein mevatlim yisur al chadchila. So when if you decided to mix it around, it's kodem shenotam bo'atam. In other words, Easter has not been chal yet. Okay, fine. You guys don't like it, it's okay. But I think that avoids that problem. That's what Rashi does for us. Does a lot more. In the Gemara, let's go to the star player, which is Rav. It says like 8 lines down or so. I'm a Rav. I'm going to continue with you, Andre, okay?
אמר רב, כיוון שנתן טעם בחתיכה, חתיכה עצמה נעשית נבלה, ואוסרת כל החתיכות כולן מפני שהן מינה.
Okay, help me with that. What's that about?
So at the moment the drop of milk falls into the meat, then itself it becomes a nevela.
What's itself? Yeah, the chati, right?
The piece of meat becomes a nevela, and then it contaminates the rest of the chatichot that are there because they are min b'mino.
Right. So what Rashi says is coming comes. It's so funny to say it that way, but whatever. And comes, we get to that next stage in the career of, what was your term? Contamination, in the career of contamination. Now we get into serious contamination because it's a chaticha itself. Look at Rashi, Amar Rav, down below there in the Vilna on the right-hand side, right before the long lines. Amar Rav.
מרב עד יתנן במתניתין, אם יש בנותנתם באותה חתיכה לאסור את כל הקדרה, דכיוון
No, so
דנאסרה.
there's an aleph there, so it's kind of a funny reading. What does the aleph tell us up above? Oto
There is an-
chaticha. How would you read it now?
באותו חתיכה?
Yeah, in the Hagos Abach.
Sorry, I don't have it right now in front of me.
Okay, so you have your Hagos Abach there?
Yeah.
So-
באותה, אמר רב, באותה חתיכה, אסור לאסור כל הקדרה, כאמר
Yeah, no,
כיוון.
it can't be sur. It has to be something a little like that.
אם יש בנותנתם באותה חתיכה, אסור.
So then how do you translate it?
Wait, no, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not sure. I'm not understanding it. What the guys? Hang on.
Yeah, okay, Aaron.
The Bach is explaining that Rashi left out a word from the Mishnah, and when the Mishnah says asur, it means it is asur enough to be oser the other chatichot.
Yesh b'notentam ba'ota chaticha asur, maybe it'd be isur. I'm asking. Does that work a little bit better? I know I got caught on this last week.
Yeah.
Isur ba'ota chaticha, and I think you read like ba'ota chaticha isur.
No, I think
Or
I
it
think
makes yesh b'notentam ba'osa chaticha. It's almost like saying chatichat isur, but it doesn't say chatichat. It says chaticha isur.
I think he's just filling in the quote from the Mishnah and explaining how Rashi is jumping from the Mishnah to it being able to oser.
So read it for me. So read it. What do you got, Alan? What did you just say?
If it's chaticha isur, it should be with a tav, right? Chatichat isur.
I know.
I think
I
you
apologize
just
I apologize when I said it. So therefore, it should be the way it is. Chaticha. It makes im yesh b'nosa in time, ba'osa chaticha isur. Maybe yeah. I'm going to embrace isur. It makes an chaticha. The whole thing is isur. The whole chaticha is an isur. Before it was what? It was a chaticha that contained an isur. And now it's a chaticha that the chaticha has become an isur. Can you read it that way? Yesh b'nosei time the oso chaticha isur. This chaticha has become itself. It looks like a nice piece of meat. No, it's an isur. Jacob, is okay with that?
I think if it were isur, it would have the yud in there. I think he's just the Bach is explaining how Rashi is moving, how Rashi is explaining what the Mishnah really says when it says im yesh b'benoten ta'am asur. It is so asur that it can then be oser other chatichot. It's asur enough la asur od chatichot.
In other words, we should say asur. Say it your way. He's saying it in a primitive way, as opposed to my attempt right now to make Rashi into a Lithuanian Lamdan and say Isur and all that, right? Okay. So he says it in a very basic way. Okay, I'll accept that. What do you have, Joel?
I think because the Hago de Bach has another word that he sticks in there, which is kamar, right? So I think what he's saying is, I'm going to read it this way, is Amar Rav Haditam Bemanitin, Im Yesh Benotan Tam Beoto Chatecha Asur, which is the quote from the Mishnah. It's what it means is that it's osir the entire kedera. That's what the Mishnah is saying. So you'd have to put it quote unquote and the quote with asur, and then meaning the following: lesor kol kedera.
Aaron, do you agree with Joel, or you're saying the same thing?
I think we're saying the same thing.
Okay, all right. Okay, nobody on my side. Good. I think you guys are right. Okay, let's go. So continue reading, Andre. Lesor is such a big, excuse me, I'm only paraphrasing now. It's such a big Isur. Then now I'm paraphrasing. Lesor, go on.
לאסור את כל הקדרה דכיוון דנאסרה חתיכה, היא עצמה כולה נעשית איסור, ואוסרת כל החתיכות.
Oh, it's here now. Now I got the Isur. Yeah, here it is.
ואוסרת כל החתיכות כולן, ואפילו יש בהן כדי לבטל החתיכה, כולה נאסרות כולן.
Right. This has to be understood like a disaster movie, right? On one hand, you had that great scientist who saw the fungus on the side of the plate that, and from there we ended up with penicillin. And here we have what? The Isur that ate the Kedera. You never know what's going on in the kitchen. This is tragic, especially if it's Friday at 6:30, right? Tikaven, the Nesra, Chatichai, he atzma kulana city sur, Bosert kal Chatichot kal, Bafil, Yeshwan Kede. Bafilu, did you read that? Bafilu? Did you read that, Andre? Did you finish the Rashi?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm slower. Bafilu Yeshwan Kede levatel chaticha kula, right? Nesarot kulan. Explain that part. Does Rashi explain it? What does that mean? How does it happen? Right now, what's the mechanism that makes the whole? If I was a good teacher, I say before we got up to that part, and it's osir everything. I say, why is it osir everything? Maybe you'd say, well, it's a big chaticha or something or other like that. And therefore, it's not like a little tiny Isur, it's a giant Isur. That's kind of the way I was talking. And now he says it's Osir. Why is it Osir everything just with the information that we have and no further information? Joel?
Well, I think this is one of those cases where the Dibura Matchil and Rashi, people separating those out, have led us astray. We should just keep reading through Rashi at this point and ignore the fact that there's somebody stuck in a Dibura Matchil or made the Dibura Matchil separate.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Less fun. But Joel, do it then. Tell me that.
Do it, right? He says, right, I'll go back to the other. Vafilu yesh bem kidei levatel chaticha kulan, nesrot kulan, mipnei shehen mina, v'rav savar like Rabbi Yehuda, de'amar min b'mino lo batil.
All right. Okay, I'm destroyed. Okay, absolutely right. That's it. No. You have right. You have to read the whole thing, right? You have to read the whole thing. It's an ongoing saga. Now,
also, Rav, I don't know if you know, but your camera's off right now, I think.
My camera's off. So what do I do? How do
I can only go so far.
I know. Okay. Hi. Was it on before? Oh, whatever.
It was at some point, but
Here I am.
Pastor Siman.
Here I am. Okay, good. So wait a second. Any other conclusions from this section right now? I'm just like, I'm just saying, okay. Now let's skip down. Let's skip down, and Rav is our focus, because Rav is the one who moved the conversation ahead. Rav, because he's the one who has said, so what do we do? You know, look what happens, or what could happen. Now we have a hunk of burning ether. Not a hunk of burning love, but a hunk of burning ether. What are we going? It's hot. What are we going to do? So let's go down 8 lines or so. Umay kosavar. Okay, Alice, read Umay kosavar. Thank you, Andre. Umay kosavar.
My Kasavar in the Gemara or in Rashi? Like
In the Gemara.
in the Gemara. Okay. So
Wait, get the that's Umay kosavar, ikosavar. Right, Umay kosavar.
Okay. Where is that? Dikta de Rava. What did you say it was?
It's
Oh,
what
my
do you have in
Kasavar.
front
Okay,
of
got
you?
it.
You have a
got
book
it,
in
okay.
front of you? What do
Good,
you
I
have
got
in
it.
front of you?
Yeah, I have a
Okay.
book. I got it. Okay.
Wait, the rest of you have this? Michael Savar, if you have a book, you have a Vilna, it's right below the Tosos Omar Rava. We skipped the whole Rava thing. Michael Savar.
My Kasavar.
Anyway, who are
Kasavar.
we talking about? Talking about Rav.
Right. Rav. Right. Is it like we come back to Rav? Like if he thought that Esher L'Sochto Mutar.
Well, what did Rav say? And once you have that, then you have a lot of damage. It says Michael Savar. You want to know Michael Savar. Let me just ask you a quick question. Michael Savar, why are we so interested in this?
We want to know, why does he think?
But why do we want to know about him? Who is Rav?
It's important.
Rav,
Rav. Who is
Amor.
he?
don't we roll like we generally roll like Rav Israel against
Right, against Shmuel. Wait, Rav and Dinim. No, Rav.
But this isn't a
Rav
machloket.
Isur
Rav
and
and
Shmuel
Isur, but
B'Dinim.
this
Right.
isn't a
The
machloket.
Monos,
Rav
the
and
Monos, the
Shmuel.
Monos. What did you just say, Lexi? I didn't hear. Sorry.
I was saying, yeah, like we hold like Rav in Yisurim versus Shmuel, but this also isn't a machloket Rav and Shmuel.
Right, I'm agreeing with you, although a little bit later down, maybe, but I agree with you. No, so Rav, right? First generation Amora, not just first generation Amora. Who was his Rebbe? Guy who
Rabbi.
wrote the Mishnah.
Rabbi. Yeah.
Man who wrote the Mishnah. So, and it is a question of the Gemara that sounds like they're interpreting the Mishnah, except they're interpreting Rav. But Rav should know what the Mishnah is about, because he was sitting there in the first row. You know, when Yehuda Nasi says, I have this new book called the Mishnah, he was there, he was there in the first row. So Michael Savar. I mean, I'm just saying the question is a kind of a Gemara kind of question that you usually ask on a Mishnah. But I'm not saying, so would they have done this with the 4th generation? Maybe, but this fits very well. This is the first generation because like he should know. Ikosavar, go ahead, read. Ikosavar.
Ikasavar, אפשר לסוחתו מותר, חתיכה עמי נעשית נבלה. So if he thought that if you ring it, it's permitted, the piece, why has the piece become nevela?
Right. Ella.
Kasavar efshar lesochto asur. So he must have thought that even if you can get the isur out of with this chita, so it's still forbidden.
Still forbidden, right? So now It's like really important to us. Deah Mar, continue.
דאיתמר רב ורבי חנינא ורבי יוחנן דאמרי
Who were, okay, who was,
So
what generation was Rabbi Hanina? I looked this up. You can look things up too. I can't remember this by heart. Rav, I remember.
Third generation.
Yeah, some say
Third-
first
it's
generation.
earlier,
It's first
it's
generation.
earlier,
Could be.
right.
But Rabbi Yochanan, what generation was he?
it's
Second
also-
generation. The Rabbi Yochanan is a powerful guy. You see that, you saw that in the postscript. So actually, we have three powerful people are saying, well, we'll see what they say. Damri,
דאמרי אפשר לסוחתו אסור. Okay, that's what they say.
yeah.
And Shmuel ורבי שמעון.
Shmuel's what generation?
Shmuel, it's the same like Rav, like, so it's like
Yeah,
third.
okay, as Yaakov says, just
century.
like Rav, right? Rav and Shmuel. As they have it
First
in all
generation,
these
first
books.
generation.
With the Scheinsalz book, AB1. Get the Scheinsalz book. AB1, Amora, Babylonian, first generation. The Rebbe,
Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi, so he's
Yeah,
the
who's he?
son of Rabbi. So it looks
Yeah,
like so it
okay.
must be
he's
first
a
generation.
Tana Amora. He's from the
Right.
swing generation, transition generation. The next guy,
But Resh Lakish, like Rabbi Yochanan.
where is he? Whose Talmud is he?
It's like Rabbi Yochanan, so it's
Well, yeah,
second.
so like it's the same generation. They're always battling it out, right? Battling their brains together, right? Damri, they say,
דאמרי אפשר לסוחתו מותר. So all of them say the later part that if it can be drunk, it's permitted.
I say, right? This is a world war. I shouldn't even make fun of those things. This is a cataclysm, right? They're really out against it, right? They are major insiders who on a very fundamental idea are in that. And the Gemara brings it this way, and and doesn't have to go any further, although could be that it goes further, or at least we'll see it in the Tosfos in terms of lining up people. Wait. So what's the possible usage for us right now, seeing this piece, this information of who's for and against? We're all used to having one against one, and later on having somebody else, and someone else, and all the rest. But what's the use, the practical use? Aaron, what would you say the practical use? I don't know practical, forget practical, what's the use?
Two things. I guess on the one hand, you would say that it's clearly an open question. The practical use, on the other hand, I think is limited because from the context of the Gemara, it's actually not even totally clear what the concept we're talking about means.
Okay, well, it's insufficient. I would say not no use, but we have insufficient. Alan, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to go this route, you could say, well, since there's disagreement, and later on we'll be discussing the question of Hanan and Basar B'chala versus Shari Surin. Well, since they're developing logic for both approaches, why Efshar L'Safta would be Matar and Nasser, so therefore there's some room for a legitimate split that would make sense. Why we'd say Basar B'chala, but Hanan Basar B'chala, and not for everything else. I don't remember if anyone actually does that.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm happy with this. All right, so that means they're poskening very differently. And it seems to be a very basic kind of deal. And now is it a very idea, and now is a basic, I'm gonna hack on this just for one more minute. Now he's like very basic. It's like they should have remembered this from Shir. One way or the, it's the same group. You know, and it's not like a derivative kind of halacha, you know, although, or is it? Maybe they're all in agreement, but we're missing something. It doesn't sound like it, because when they say the itmar, what they're doing is they're saying that was already as it were, in terms of Amoraim, already a canonical statement about that generation. This is what the thing that this generation argued about. It's like a deal, and it has to be finished. So now, even though I would hack that even further, we'll continue from there. But I think that's an important thing. Now, we did Omar Rav, and we did, yeah, you did that. And then I skipped there. Michael Savar. Let's look at the Rashi on that. Who's been reading? Alice. Michael Savar, Rav.
Yep.
Jacob, you were going to say something? No. Okay. Michael Savar.
ומאי כסבר באשר לסוף. בעשר שנבלע בהתר, ונתן בו טעם ואסרו, וחזר ובישל ההתר הזה עם התר אחר. שאפשר האיסור הנבלע בזה, להיסחט ממנו ולחלק בהתר האחרון, ואין בו כשיר לאסור את האחר. Okay. So what is Rob thinking regarding this case where it is possible for the latter piece to squeeze its Isser out? In other words, the Isser has gotten absorbed in heter, it's given a taste, we then went and cooked it with another heter, and it's possible to squeeze out the Isser and have it be totally redistributed among the second heter, such that there wouldn't be enough to batel. There would be enough to batel the Isser.
Why did Rashi need to tell us this? Wouldn't we have known this?
I would not.
You never have done. He unfolds the steps of what's happening in the kitchen to make this monstrous act. And you were going to say, Aaron? Aaron, what are you going to say?
Yeah, it actually, I think, Alan, as you defined it, is how we normally think of what Efshar L'Sochto Aser means, meaning it's about the piece's status. And Rashi's definition here, which is also confusing in the Gemara, he actually seems to define Efshar L'Sochto Aser as being Efshar L'Sochto Oser, meaning it's about the piece's ability to affect other pieces, and is actually closer to what we would call Hanan. But that, I think, is one of the confusing things. In this Gemara is actually the concepts Efshar L'Sochto and Hanan are not clearly defined in relationship to each other, and this shows up in the Rishonim of it's not clear that they all, even though they definitely think there are two separate concepts, they don't necessarily think the words mean the same thing.
Okay, so our assignment should be, I agree with you, our assignment should be that if we see a chiluk, right now I see no chiluk between the two. I see no distinction between, I mean, logically, I don't see the distinction between the two. You can kind of kvetch it out maybe in terms of what it does or what it is, but there's no reason to kvetch it out because it sounds, we should try to find out what the distinction is, if there is a distinction. Or if it's handled in exactly the same way. What are the two concepts again, Aaron?
Efshar L'Sochto Aser and Hanan. From the language of the Gemara, on the one hand, the way they're defined makes it sound like they're the same thing, but from the fact that the Gemara uses two different terms, it makes it sound like it's not the same thing.
Right, that's our problem. Right, that's our problem. So then we have to see whether or not. So Alan, do the next Rashi. Ikasavar.
Ikasavar utergam harishon mipnei sheniflat ha'isur mimenu. L'chachila hudaser she'em mevatlin haser l'chachila. I mean, shari lechol operation.
Right, so Rashi is continuing. He just wants to get rid of that problem. We're not talking about doing it purposely, but it happened. Does it, it has an impact. What impact does it have? What you have, Yavni?
I don't understand, Aaron. I don't understand why you say that that we're saying if Shagla Sochto Asul is Chanan.
Because we're gonna see, as we're gonna see in the Gemara and even in that comment from Rashi, that the Efshar L'Sochto Aser, even though in the Rishonim and Achronim typically refers to the pieces itself ability to go back to being heter or not, in Siman 106. Here, it actually seems about the piece's ability to be oser other pieces.
But I think
so. Rashi's talking about the possibility of is going to end up talking about the possibility of milk entering the meat and then leaving the meat again, meaning sochto. It is being emitted, but its ability to be oser, and not status of the piece itself being aser or mutar. The assumption is efshar l'sochto, the piece itself.
But I think it's just
is aser one way or another, and the ability
You
to
have an
oser.
answer. You have an answer to the seeming problem. So Yavni, when you see that answer, when you see that answer in the Gemara and the Rishonim, point it out, okay?
sorry. What is the problem as you see it?
The problem is
That I'm looking for
that kind of Occam's razor. Why use two terms when you can use one?
But I thought it was saying,
that's the problem. That's the problem. They seem to be the same. So is there any distinction?
I thought the
Laura?
connection between the two was that in order for something to be oser, it has to be asul. And therefore, if you have efshar l'sochto mutar, then there's no way to say that it's chanan, because like it can't be naset nevilah if it's not even asul. Right, like if the tipar chalav comes out and then it's distributed among, right, the way Rashi describes it, then it's distributed among the whole pot, and so then it's battled, then the original piece isn't even asul, let alone osir. You certainly need it to be, that's how I understand why they're saying then chaticha amay naset nevilah, like
I was afraid that's what you're going to say. Let's see if someone repeats that, what you said, okay?
and that's what it seems to me that Rashi is saying, how Rashi is explaining it.
Oh yeah? Now you got my interest. Where does Rashi say that?
מה כסף הרב, באפשר לסוחתו באיסור שנבלע בהיתר ונתן בו טעם ואוסרו וחזר ובישל ההיתר הזה עם ההיתר אחר שאפשר האיסור הנבלע בזה להיסחט ממנו ולהיחלק.
Okay, I surrender. I surrender.
think,
but what's still missing, you don't surrender, Aaron, I know, but I surrender. But what's still missing is the use of the term.
Even there, right, the lischot is the ability of the iser, lisachet, and to be oser other pieces. So again, it's not about the status of the piece itself. The assumption is the piece itself is aser one way or another.
Yeah, but
the
he
question
may have
is that piece going to be oser?
To be defend Yavni, which I normally don't do, but to defend Yavni, I'd say this is just for the Rashi. Rashi wants to make the point how we need the point right now, and just he contracts it. There's also a contraction, or not. Okay, good. We'll stop it now. We'll come back to this. This is very good. Okay, but who is reading the Rashi?
Right. חתיכה נעשית נבלה. האפשר היא לשחט ממנה ולחלק לאחרים שלא קיבלו ממנה כלום. ואין לנו לאסור עד שייתן החלב טעם בכולן. דלגה למימר אפשר לשחט מזה ולבלע בזה שרי כולן שווים בטעמה. ואיזה תתיר ואיזה תאסור. So why would the piece in it, the piece in the Isser have become the Vela, if it's possible for all the Isser to get expelled out and redistributed among the other pieces? And so we can't really forbid until the Chalab gives taste to to all of them. And we also can't say that the Isser went out of our piece and into another piece, because all the others, they're equivalently tasting, so that you won't have one that's mutter while another is Isser.
Okay, fine. Oh, wait, there's another piece there, right? Go on, do the other one. Ikosavar.
Yeah, Ela Kazavar, Mishnah Esra HaChaticha, Shuv Ein La Heter Beslita. Veshmoinan Af Heter Shabbat, Neasa Iser, Leo Kan Shir Gadola, Soracharim Harbe. So what Rav really thinks is that once the first piece becomes Aser, there's no way of making it mutter again by getting squeezing all the Aser out. So what we learn is that even the heter part of the piece is transformed into Isser, such that it can Oser even a bunch of other pieces.
And narratively, since you always like narrative, what has Rashi done for us? It's brought it back to our original topic of that piece.
Full circle to the original. Main
right. It gets us back to there, and that whole thing. Therefore, everything is accounted for. The Sabar Rav. Let me read for a second. The Sabar Rav Efshar in the Gemara. The Sabar Rav Efshar Sachto Aser. Wait. That's what you're telling us. Vayitmar. Kazayas. Well, we have all these Amoraic statements. Vayitmar Kazayas Basar Shenopal Latoch Yoreh Shel Chalav. Amarav Basar Aser B'Chalav Mutter. Why is the right? Why is the Basar Aser? Just like Rashi says, Shenasal Chalav Tambo, right? The Isaka Daitach Efshar L'Sochto Aser, right? Chalav, now on Kufchet Omebet, Chalav, Amai Mutter, Chalav Nevela. Why is it in Nevela? Why is it in Nevela?
It's because the Chalav. Yeah, go ahead.
It's focusing on the like Efshar L'Sochto part, as opposed to, right? If he thinks that Efshar L'Sochto, but it's still Asur, then it was squeezed out of the meat, and like the milk that was in the meat that became like Chalav Nevela has squeezed back out into the rest of the milk.
And we're missing something. So Yavni, read Rashi of Chalva Mai Mutter. Top Rashi, everybody.
Yeah. חלב המים מותר, הרי חלב מעט שנבלע בבשר נעשה נבילה, שהרי נאסר, וכשחזר ונפלט בשאר החלב, הווה לי מין במינו, חלב אסור בחלב היתר, ורב אית למין במינו לא בטיל.
Just so we're all together, what is the chalav asur?
The chalav asur is the chalav that got absorbed into the little piece of meat.
And now is exuded.
And now is chalav asur, right? Now is basar b'chalav, which the Gemara is calling chalav nevela. And then it's back out in the rest of the chalav in the pot. And then the other step that we need is that's min.
And now's the next step. Read this next step. V'rav.
V'rav itle min b'mino lo batil. And according to Rav, if you have min b'mino, you can't have bitol. It's right. It's chalav and chalav. It's chalav yisur and chalav heter. So that's
Just tell me, did we already hear from Rav that according to Rav, min b'mino is also?
According to this note on page Kuf Amud Aleph.
Yeah, but in our section here, we didn't know that, right?
No, so we got a number earlier, didn't we?
Did we?
We
saw something about like among the other pieces.
Yeah, that already came earlier. That like Oseret Kol Chatichot Kulam Mipnei She'en Mina.
Right.
So it's already there.
Right.
But we have. And now it's a full package, right? It's a full package. Such a full package that it's crazy. Because how could he ever make that statement? He believes in Min B'Mino, right? I mean, the whole thing. I mean, how could we even think that he would say that the chalav is mutter, chalav is nevela? It's not like a far-fetched thing to go to. He's enunciated Min B'Mino. Rashi's not adding anything. Rashi's just reminding us. So it's a really good question. We're skipping the first answer because it doesn't appear so much in the postgame. Let's go to the second. What we do with this contradiction. There's I'm going down 10 lines. El Eliolam. You got that? Elam Kasava Rav. Okay, who's reading? Jacob read. El Eliolam.
Yeah. Ella Leolam Shabarav Chalav Nami Asor.
Yeah, it has to be that way, right? So why does he paskin differently? The Hacha.
The Hacha of Mayaskinan. Kigon Shanafal Tuch Yoreh Rotachat. The Falet no Valet. So Kinaya Hadar Falet.
Okay, well, Paul, just stop there.
Yeah.
So he says this is a different deal, right?
Yeah.
This is an exceptional case.
So it's
because, right. What's the science that he's saying? The scientific principles he's saying as a word? Or you can read it. The Mivla Bola. Miflat, lo polat. Right? That's how I think you're supposed to read it. But anyway, so, right?
The Rolling Stone gathers no muss. Yeah.
There you go. It absorbs, but it doesn't.
Actually,
it absorbs, but it doesn't exude. So then the Gemara says, question, sof.
So in the end, when it rests, when it's not boiling, then it exudes. But this is the case when you like took out the piece before.
So all you've done is delay it. All you've done is delay it by saying that while it's boiling, nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as it rests, right now our pshat is rest from boiling. Right now, our pshat is rest from boiling. The kedera rest from boiling. It's immediately going to be polite, and he's still passing the chol of his mutter.
Right.
So all you did was delay it. What you've done is you've given us an exceptional case, which saves Rav, and we can say that Rav really feels because of Min B'Mino and all the rest. Efshar L'Sochto is usher, right? And here we have an exceptional case. And the answer is, it's not even that exceptional of a case, because all you're doing is delaying the whole deal. So the Gemara says, but that exceptional case, what happens to Shekadam, the Silka? What does that mean, Jacob?
So before the pot stops boiling, you remove the Nevela piece.
Okay, what do we know now exactly? So the piece is gone, and therefore what? The piece is gone, and therefore he removed that piece.
Yeah.
He took the tongs while it was still boiling, or he took his gloves and he got rid of it. Therefore, when it rested, the pot rested,
nothing in it that was Nevela that could exude into the pot.
Right, and therefore the cholav is mutter. Yeah, the cholav is mutter, and that's fine. Now, I just want to talk to you just for a moment about how this Gemara is operating. We have Rav here, and Rav makes a very important statement. And would they focus on Rav? The Gemara focuses on Rav because we have statements from Rav, and that those statements seem to be sufficient for us to ask questions. And we're preserving Rav's statements that he's part of that crew, the gang of three against the other gang of three, but he's part of the gang of three, which says Efshar L'Sochto is Osir. We preserve that. And we have a specific case in which, however, from this newest case, we've learned more halachas. What are the halachas that we've learned? Alice, what's the halachas that we learned? Alice.
Yeah, the shekadam v'silko, it's mutar if it doesn't
Before
have a
that, we
chase.
learned, first of all,
Sorry?
before that.
Even before that, we had right.
Right, no, here.
Mi bala.
It's what?
We learned
When
the
it's
idea
boiling,
that an Isser counts
it's-
boiling Isser
it's
cannot.
rotachat, it's rotach. When we say there's belia, not belia, excuse me. There is, belia, and there's no
Later.
This is a major thing. This is why the Rishonim are going to say, because it becomes itself, the exceptional case itself becomes a source of halacha, while preserving Rav and his gang of three. Yeah. Therefore, now skip down. Wait a second, am I missing something important? And you know what? So let's look at the Tosfos. Why not? So it also says like this: Shenapa otoch Yoreh rotachas semibu aboa miplat lo palat. Okay, Lexi, hit the Tosfos, please.
Sorry, one sec. I'm scrolling through. What's the Dibar Matchil again?
Shenapa otoch Yoreh rotachas. This is like such a sad story. Shenapa otoch Yoreh rotachas. The nivu aboa miplat lo palat.
Right. So it'd be Tema. Right. So Tema. The Devar Hanira le'enayim hu de palit dikshanot nin yerak v'ktera v'tachat mishtanem aret hamayim min hayerak v'chein basar sheman nimoach l'tocha v'nira sham nonit al rotev. Right. They're like, we very clearly with our own eyes can observe that when things are still boiling, it literally changes visibly you can see that the water turns green when you put your bok choy in it to boil, right? Or that when your meat
That's
is
good enough.
quote
Bok
unquote
choy is
thing-
good enough. Yeah. The
Right,
chaim
like you-
basar.
Yeah, I'm saying when you put meat somewhere, you can see the fattiness of it that's going into the rotev. That we can see it is expelling essence, even while the thing seems to still be boiling. The Pirish Rabbeinu Shmuel, the Hadaka Amar Miflat Lo Palit, Hainu Adshi Sobamli Bloa.
Right, and right before that. So maybe we could say this was just an answer to keep Rav on his, Rav saying what he was saying. We just got an exceptional case. We don't learn anything from this exceptional case. But the Tosfos wants to preserve the Gemara, and it's a generative moment because we're going to start
Well, because also
understanding
this
what does
does-
that really
this is-
mean.
Because they don't want, first of all, just due to obviously the methodology of the test, but they don't want to just say this is a throwaway thing, but also
Right.
it seems to be stating this like a klal. And if we took it really at face value, the shot of what that statement is, it both really deeply does not follow the way we observably see food work, and would be a huge kula that doesn't seem in line with a lot of the other things that we see. So they need to find a different way to
It's so
explain it.
incredible. I'm agreeing with you. It's so incredible. It's so incredibly not true that we have to find the truth,
Right.
is what I'm hearing. Okay, Pirish Rabbeinu Shmuel.
Right. So Pirish Rabbeinu Shmuel, the Hadakamar Miflat Lapalit, Hayinu Achia, Sobel Mevloa, Valachar Sabah Choser Polit. Right. That the Rashbam says what it means is that it doesn't expel anything until it has finished kind of absorbing, right? That it has this period in which it's absorbing, and then it starts expelling things. That's not necessarily, that can still happen while there is reticha, right? That can still happen while the pot is boiling, that there's like an initial period where it's absorbing and not expelling.
So what does that do to our, what does it do to that answer? What does it do for us?
Again, his is a more conceptual but not so practically helpful answer in the sense of it helps in that it's able to say, okay, congratulations, we see that things can in fact expel while stuff is still boiling. And this is maybe like when we observe that, it's just because by the time that we're seeing, the water turn green or the fattiness start floating on the rotev, that's after it's already been like sabamili blowout, right? It's already finished its absorption period. And that way we can explain that this principle in the Gemara is a real thing, right? It's not just, we have to accept that it's real, but like the problem is that it's not clear how you have any way of measuring what that.
Okay, that's going to be the end. But nonetheless, you're right. The answer itself saves the day, but it's problematic answer. That's why we have the Chaim Peirash.
Right, the Chaim Peirash, Rabbeinu Shmaya, Sof. It's funny. Rashbam and Rabbeinu Shmaya often like go together in a pair. I feel like. Anyway, Sof ki nayach hadar palit, hainu ki nayach mebliato. Right, that like when it says like, oh, when it stops, it'll expel. That's not nayach meritichato. It's actually nayach mebliato. Right, it's when it stops absorbing is when it's going to expel. Umishane shekatav misilko kodem shekamar bliato. Right, and they resolve when it says that like the person got in there and took it out in advance. That's taking it out before it finishes its absorbing, not before the pot is taken off of the heat.
I'm just repeating what was not fully repeating what was said. It answers the question, but I would say we, the reader, we, the learner, are uneasy because now it's like a window. Before it was like simple. He went in and take the cook gets rid of it. He's masalik it. It's simple. But now, as we said, somehow he has to do it before the pot is sovea, is satisfied with the amount of absorption it has done. The window, whatever it is, the window now is a strange window. Okay, let's go on. Votan Kalim.
באותן כלים וקרבות האסורות כשמגילים אותם בתוכרה גדולה ומניחים אותם מבפנים שהמים נוצחים, היה מצריך רבנו שמואל להניחם שעה גדולה עד כדי שיהיה להם שהות לגמור בליעה ולחזור לפלוט אחר כך.
Okay, before the tema. So he has
that like when you're trying to do Hagala, if we think that things don't begin to expel what's in them until they finish their absorbing, right? So when Rashbam is koshering his pots and pans, he would like require that they wait a certain amount, like for the pots and pans, a whole hour.
72
minutes. A long hour. Because I guess he guesstimated that was how long it takes for these pots and pans to finish absorbing the water and begin expelling the stuff that's inside of them.
And you're standing in line to get your pots kashered. You'll never get it kashered. I mean,
right. So Rashbam brings his stuff to the Chabad boys in the corner, and you're just, SOL.
The Devar, now you get the punchline. Devar Temahu.
Right.
Tosos is now talking.
Yeah. The Devar Temahu. Demi Bakile Dash Yoreh, right? Like this is a bizarre answer to give because who is able to actually accurately estimate what is this shiur of how long it takes a thing to finish absorbing? But Rabbeinu Tam, the Hadaka Amar Hacha Mibla Bala Mifa Lo Palit Hainu Lo Palit Masha Bala Achshav Ava Masha Haya Balua Mekudam Palit. right?
What does
So,
Rabbeinu Tam
right,
feel
Rabbeinu
about the prior
Tam
answer?
thinks the
Prior
prior answer is not practical.
Not practical, right?
Right.
We
I think he thinks it's both not practical and maybe just also not accurate. In
Yeah.
the sense of like how things physically work. And Rabbeinu Tam is like, maybe it's what it's actually saying is that while the thing is still boiling, it's not going to yet get around to expelling what it is currently absorbing
Mhm.
from that
Mhm.
boiling material. But it
Mhm.
itself, the stuff that was already in the thing that has been plopped into this boiling pot, that can be expelled immediately, right? So like the bok choy isn't expelling the water that it's absorbing until you take the pot off the fire, but it's expelling its bok choyness before that, right? As soon as it goes into the water. So similarly here, right, we would be saying with this piece of meat that fell into the chalav, right? Like the chalav that it absorbs that becomes naset nevela inside the meat doesn't get re-expelled into the rest of the milk until the pot is taken off the fire. But the meat itself gets expelled into the chalav immediately.
So that's his attempt. That's his attempt to the answer.
Right.
We're going to leave. Say
so we wanna
one
pause
more
there?
part of the Tosfot, and then we're going to stop the Tosfot. Yeah.
Right. Probably. The Ein Lahatzir
although we don't-
Mitam Hagil.
Although we don't generally, interestingly, we don't generally seem to have this sense that the meat is going to expel meat flavor into the milk. Like our whole concern is that it's going to get the milk back into the milk. I'm not
Well,
sure
no,
what-
I mean we do have a sense that it's going to do that. It's just that we don't care about that if there's shishim.
Right.
Oh, okay.
As in,
Which
that can be
means-
batel. The
No,
whole
no, but
issue
this is really
yeah.
important. Your conversations are very important because how many factors do we have? I'm saying, right? We have the factor of boiling, and we have the factor of shishim, and you'll see it in the Beis Yosef. What happens? We have less than 60. We have less than 60. Maybe the boiling is going to help, but if you don't have full boiling, then 60 is not enough. Maybe you need boiling and 60. It becomes like how many factors do you need to get it to change? And here it seems that you need both. Let's stop the Tosfos right here. Let me just do a little bit more Gemara before the end. That's right. We're going to Vasilko. Go down in the Gemara. The Afshar was Sachlo Atzmo. It's like in the middle, right? A little under the middle. The Afshar was Sachlo Atzmo Tanayu. Now they're deeping down, right? They're saying it's not just this gang of three versus the posse of three. It's actually already a Tanaitic problem. There's a source of why there's a machlokas here. You have it there? The Tanya Tipat Chalav Shenafla Chaticha. Kevin Shenotna Tam Bachaticha, Achaticha Asma Nasa Nevela, though Seret Ko Chatichot Kulon, Bibnei Shehe Mina, Dive Rabbi Yehuda. Sounds very nice. Who does he sound like? For our knowledge? Rav. I mean, Rav got it from him, evidently. Right? Okay. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The Chachamim Omrim, Ad Shetitein Tam Berotev Bekipa Ubechatichot. But the Chachamim are evidently in disagreements, right? In order to make it usher, it has to give Tam in the Rotev, Kipa, and the Chatichot that are within the pot. Therefore, what is the Chachamim's position on Min B'mino? Before we just had Min B'mino with Rav, because of Min B'mino it's usher.
I think it's batel v'shishim.
Right. But Min B'mino, it's not, it's not B'mashahu. It has to have a real time. And evidently it's also could be batel, right? It can be mevutal when you have enough. They're coming from a whole different point of view. And that becomes the machlokas. Omar Rebbe, right? That's the machlokas. Amar Rebbe, nearing Divrei Rebbe Yehuda. It's Rebbe. So Rebbe is, what's he going to do with his two factions over here? Rebbe Yehuda versus the Chachamim. And Rebbe is going to arbitrate it. Rebbe says the following: nearing Divrei Rebbe Yehuda, the Shalom Nier, the Shalom Kisa. The Divrei Chachamim, the Shenier the Kisa. So what does Rebbe Yehuda says? What does he say about Rebbe Yehuda? Rebbe Yehuda says it's usher, right? It must be, going back to this, we have a new factor that we didn't say before fully regarding this. I mean, the Mishnah says near, but we didn't. Rebbe Yehuda will make his statement when you go against the Mishnah and you're not near, you're not kisa, which is the same thing, putting the cover, the lid on the pot, you have the vapors go up and the vapors come down and the vapors turn to water. It turns that's the situation in which he says what? The Rebbe Yehuda b'shlo. So what does Rebbe Yehuda say? What does Rebbe Yehuda say? Nearing well, let's take a look. Nearing. Look at Rashi. Nearing. All right.
This seems to be correct under these circumstances.
Under the circumstances, but let's see what the circumstances are. Joel, read nearing. Nearing.
All right. Nearing v'chule, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mefarish lekame kula milta de Rebbe. Okay. So all of this is all Rebbe, right?
Right. Near.
Near hegis ba b'megis. Amenaer tekadera mitpashetatam bechula v'chein haskama
Mechasa.
Oh, there we go. I have thank you. Again, makes more sense. Mechaseota mipnei shemesh hashulaim olin ad po v'yordin. So it's if you stir it, right, you're stirring the pot, then all the flavor goes out, it's all over the place. It expands into all of it. And so too, if you cover it, right, because on the walls of the pot, there's water goes up and water goes down and you get mixture. So, okay.
Okay, but what does that tell us? What does that give us? In other words, I'm trying to understand, okay. I'm still want to understand what the problem here is.
Well, I think what Rebbe's done is he's saying, I agree with Rebbe Yehuda in the case where you didn't do anything to the pot. You just it fell, tipat chalav fell on the piece of meat, and that piece of meat becomes an infecting piece of meat now, and it's osir all the other pieces. And the Chachamim, right, I agree with them that once you do something to mix up the flavors in the pot, the word once is a bad thing, that if you do things to mix up the flavors of the pot, when that happens is going to be a big question, then all the forces in the pot are marshaled against that tipat chalav and not just the one.
So according to Rebbe's term, in which you're all wonderful and you're all right in a certain circumstance, according to that answer that he gives, does Rebbe Yehuda versus the Chachamim, the two groups, do they actually disagree?
I think they actually disagree. I think Rebbe says, but I think that both of you are right in different circumstances.
Okay, fine. So very good. Rebbe makes them agree. Because how does he make them agree? He says there's just one principle. The one principle
I'm not sure
that if you want it to be mutter, you have to have nier or chisa, which is exactly the same thing. We'll just use the term near. You have to be near. And if you're near it, what happens is it distributes. And once it's distributed, it's mevutal. And just so happens these two cases, one was a case of low near and one was the case of near. But actually, according to Rebbe, the two of them disagree. He takes, this is showing the seams and showing the conclusion that Rebbe, Joe, the way you said it before is that you want to you, Joel, you want to validate the two opinions and validate the argument. And what does Rebbe want to do?
He wants
He wants
to
to
say,
write the Mishnah.
yeah, exactly.
But does
He
it
wants to write
mean
the Mishnah.
then?
Therefore, they have to agree.
Okay.
But now what we have is an overwhelming principle, an overriding, as a word, an overriding principle that it's all dependent on near v'chisa or low near v'chisa. And that
Rav
becomes
Levi,
a major variable. Did I say it right or did I say it wrong?
I think the Gemara goes on to say that it's not, the Gemara at least does not necessarily, doesn't think Rebbe thinks they agree. He's just saying when he agrees with each of them. It might be in the actual shot of Rebbe's comment that Rebbe's saying they're agreeing, but the Gemara goes on to say that he actually thinks they would hold their positions regardless of the status of Nir and Kisa, I believe, and that he just has it's his chiluk about when he agrees with each of them.
Right. The Gemara stakes Rebbe out as having this like compromised position between the two of them, where he is like, yeah, this kind of like Chetzi, Chachamim Chetzi or Yehuda, but
Since we hate the word, compromise, I will say the word integrationist. I will say that he synthesizes. I will say he brings to peace, and that that he quiets the boiling over of passions over this piece of meat. But Aaron, continue reading that. So therefore, okay, I've made that point. Now, Gemara says, "My lo nier," Aaron, read. V'lo chisa.
My lo nier v'lo chisa. Ilema lo nier klal v'lo chisa klal.
I never liked your Elema. Should be a longer Elema. Elema. If you're going to say that, that allows people to change their mindset. If you're going to say, and what happens with Elemas? Always.
They're usually shut down.
They're shut down, but we're not shut down yet. They get to say it and then they get shut down. Elema, go ahead.
Ilema lo nier klal v'lo chisa klal. Mivla bala miflat lo fala. Pala. If we're saying that when Rabbi Yehuda's understanding of Rabbi's understanding of Rabbi Yehuda of lo nier and lo kisa is you didn't have any sort of niur and no sort of kisui, then there would actually be no way for the piece to eventually spread.
Right. It would never exude, right? And spread.
The ella lo nier b'tchila ela b'sof, v'lo kisa b'tchila ela b'sof.
So how does that do it? Explain.
Right. So you didn't do it immediately. So there was time for the Isser to be chal, but then you did it
the
later.
Isser is chal. Give me a full sense. Isser is chal on the
Isser is chal on the chaticha, which is the na'aseit nevela, and then later you are mina'er or mechaseh the pot.
And what happens then? Hopefully, what happens then?
Then it's oser kol chaticha.
Or logically,
or it requires shishim in the pot against the whole.
Right, it made that, but it could be there. Okay, go on.
Amai, habala v'hapalat. But why should it be the case that this is why should this be the case? It both absorbed and emitted, so maybe there's no itzer in it anymore, and it can't, or it's not able to be oser.
Who made that opinion? I just did right before right? I just said that, right? Because it's not necessarily right. It could very well be that it's that it will be evenly distributed and turn into nothing because there's all that stuff here. So therefore, it must be. So therefore, it must be explained. Explain.
It must be a case of efshar l'sof to aser, whatever exactly that means, which seems to be meaning that the piece retains both its status and its ability to be oser other pieces. At least so now, what it seems to mean here.
Right. Now read that last Rashi.
Kosavar efshar l'sof to aser mipnei shekulan ese isur V'kol hanischat mimena
What
asur.
kula? What's kula? I'm just so.
The whole
as a teacher.
chaticha is made
Oh,
iser.
chaticha. Or
V'kol
how do
hanischat.
you say that in California? The whole enchilada. That's what you say in
The
California.
whole enchilada is iser. V'kol
Right.
hanischat mimena asur. So again, he's reading Efshar L'sochto asur as Efshar L'sochto seems to be oser. The kol hanishar ba asur. So he's reading it both ways. The kevan aftam baser sheba ne'asar choser ve'oser achirot afilu hen aleph demim b'mino lo bato. So ultimately the piece remains aser and it retains its ability to be oser other pieces, and then because of the mim b'mino interaction, al pi Rabbi Yehuda, it's oser everything.
So what do we got now? We're going to close down the Gemara. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Before we take the 5-minute break, where are we halachically?
Halachically, we al pi Rabbi in the Mishnah, we hold that there's a difference if you are minnaer and mechaseh immediately, and also that there are certain halachas that kick in if you do it immediately, if you don't do it immediately but you do it later, and if you don't do it at all.
And Rebbe and Rav?
What about them?
What have we learned from them?
From them, we might learn that mim b'mino lo batal, but
They've been sustained, but for certain other cases.
Mina Lobato. And anything else? Anybody? Anything else?
From the Chachamim, we can learn that it's dafka batel, like min bemino.
That, and what about Nischat?
It's asur, it looks like.
Is that sir?
right.
We
But
proved what
still
Rob
don't-
had. We proved what Rob had
We
to say.
didn't. We didn't.
Not that we
th-
proved.
Yeah, we
Rob-
proved Rob's opinion is like a so we didn't prove that
That's
that's
what I'm saying. We
halacha.
clarified his opinion and proved what that opinion is. We proved that he had a source in Rabbi Yehuda. We have not proved Rabbi Yehuda over the Chachamim, nor have we proved Rab over the posse, the gang over the posse. We haven't proved that, but we've reached that clarification. Now it's up to the poskim to decide which way they're going. And in the meantime, we also have this whole thing about what happens and what's the mechanisms when you are when you do what? What are the mechanisms when things are boiling? And that's we're going to come back to. Take 5 minutes and then let's go to the Beis Yosef, the Torah Beis Yosef. Okay, I guess it is 5 minutes. So I asked Joel 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, to write down the names of the principles that we have right now. The principles, Rabbi Danzig, Yeshkach, the principles that we have seen in the Gemara.
Do I start now?
And in the Gemara and in Rashi, and what are the major active you could say principles or variables, either term. Not variable, I think principles are the best term.
All right, let's see if I can get all of them. We've got mim b'mino eno batel. That's the position of
Or
mim b'mino batel b'shishim, but so we didn't actually see it as shishim, but we do have that sitting in the background.
we know about you.
We had ta'am, so it's
Yeah. Also, noten tam was the principle already in the Mishnah, right? Noten tam is oser. We have efshar l'sochto asur / mutar. Big debate there. We have a principle of in the case of its dela nayach miritichav boleh mivla palet lo maflet or mefalet, right? Which is another principle. Which in the Tosfot we also got the idea of sviat blia, right? Of the being fully absorbed. I don't know what the English word is.
Right.
Having finished it.
What did Rabbeinu Tam tell us?
There's a difference between being polet what was already in there versus being polet what you absorbed, right? That's the Rabbeinu Tam distinction, which is different. So
Okay.
and then we also have ni'er or kisamid chilav yad sof, or right, or lomit basof, and all sorts of various versions of that, where depending on when you started stirring, and we're going to play out what it means to ad stuff. We haven't seen that yet. So
Okay, good.
Those are all I got. That was just from memory, though. So
okay, so it's plenty and enough. Let's look at the Torah. I'm going to read the Torah. Let's see what the Torah. As I do the Torah, if you want to call out a principle, just call it out. Okay, Tzadi Bet Torah Kazayis Basar Shanapal Kazayis Basar Shanapal Otoch Yoreh Shachalav Rotachas the Yesh Bachalav Shishim Keneged Habasar Im Kadam B'Silek Habasar Kodem Shetanuach HaYoreh Me'Retichasa Habasar Asur V'Chalav Muter Aval Im Ein B'Chalav Shishim U'Vatel Habasar O Apil Yesh Bo Shishim V'Lo Kodem B'Silek Kodem Shetanuach HaYoreh Me'Retichasa Gam HaChalav Asur L'Rashi Demin B'Mino B'Mashahu. Let's stop for a moment. According to Rashi, what do you need in order to kasher what we're talking about? Forget kasher. I'm sorry. Be mevatel for the beetle to take place. What do you need? How many factors do you need, or principles do you need?
You need both shishim and kadam v'silka.
You need both shishim and
Kadam v'silka, right?
Right. You have to have it absent, but you still need to have shishim. Why do you still need the shishim, or why do you still? In other words, you have to do two things. You got to get rid of it, and you have enough to kasher it as a mivatel it anyway. That's how he sees Rashi. That's pretty interesting. Abal Rabbeinu Tam, the mean b'mino b'shishim, afil lo kodam b'silek kevet sheyto shishim mutter. And what happens to the kodam b'silek according to Rabbeinu Tam? What is it? The kodam b'silek? Just what he said, what Tur says, Rabbeinu Tam. Tur saying what Rabbeinu Tam's halacha, how he sees Rabbeinu Tam's halacha. What is kodem b'silek?
It's irrelevant.
It's cosmetic.
It's
cosmetic. Let's get rid of that tarpus. It's not tarpus. Get rid of that. Get rid of that Esor. That's Oser. Just get rid of it. You got shishim. What's the deal? And you're not there. So for him, there's one principle. Okay, so now let's go. We're not going to the Beis Yosef quote all the Gemaras. Go to Mashama Rabbeinu Dula Rabbeinu Tam the Mim B'Mino B'Shishim. I feel low called down B'Silek. That's interesting. Because what's in fact we should say one more some of that. What's the Torah doing? Let's get down to basics. Let's what is sufficient in order to solve our problem and to get something to be batal. Therefore, you could be mutter. Then how do you do that? What we need here is one principle, which is shishim. This is interesting how he decides this. Okay, I'll read for a little bit more. Yisboyer b'siman sariches sha'poskim hiskimu l'das Rabbeinu Tamza. That's an important thing for you guys to know, right? The mim b'mino batel b'shishim. Umi hu mashama Rabbeinu shim ein b'chalav shishim. Af al pi shekodem b'silkol gam achalav asur. Einu mechuvan beinai. I don't know. Why? To kaven shekodem b'silka hare anu omrim Shalom niflat mimenu l'toch hachalav klum. What are you talking about? That's the real remedy. You get rid of it before it does damage, as opposed to looking for 60 and measuring for 60, which may be there, may not be there, to remedy the damage, prevent the damage. But also, so far, what's he saying? He's also saying one principle, except he takes the other side, the other principle, as the major principle. Even if there's no shishim, which means that shishim, he doesn't get rid of the principle of shishim. I kind of said that he did, but he kind of doesn't. He's saying it's not necessary in our situation if you have the major principle, the major remedy, preventative of sealing. Sealing is I think it's important. Sealing is a preventative situation. Mutter. Rambam Pertet. You should look up the Rambam. It's very interesting. Shein b'chol shishin keneged abasar achalav mutter. I mean, the Rambam just says that. There's not even a parish on the Rambam. Ela sheyitzrich lahatimo legoy. Okay, so right. L'rosim yeshvo tam basar. That's just. But even how it's written, the Rambam says, I'm just being cautious. It's enough you were sealing, but I just want to be cautious. Sherei kosav zeloshano basar shenof alotoch hachalav v'chav shenof alotoch habasar v'nispashal imo shiro b'no same time. Okay, the Rambam's single principle. That's what I should have said. What is the sea lake about? The sea lake is the action, is the Maisa, but the cloud. The cloud is no Saint Tom or not. From all these things that Joel was mentioning, no Saint Tom. And Joel, you forgot no Saint Tom for a moment, or you didn't really remember it, but you didn't forget it. But Alish interjected with no Saint Tom. No Saint Tom becomes very important for him. That's the whole enchilada. But no Saint Tom, Kesad. Chaticha shel basar shenafal kedera utachat shalchav toim agoyes kedera. Ima mar sheish bo tam basar asura v'imlav muteres. But also all this interfaith stuff. If they could just remedy this, bring the goy back into the kitchen, allow Jews should paskin according to the goyim, I would bring that back. Anybody who knows me knows that I actually believe that. V'imlav muteres. Right? If it doesn't taste like that. But also chaticha surah. B'medvarim amorim b'shekadav b'hotzi it's a chaticha. Kodem shetiflot chalav. Right? The preventative. Right? Kodem shetiflot chalav shebala. Aval imlo silek mesharino to b'shishim mipnei sheyaspik liflot achalav shebala. I feel ain the Yoreh shishim keneged. Oh no, stop for a moment. So okay, what were we going to say, Aaron?
Maybe this is what you were saying, but it seems for the Rambam, I think the Tzimus Kefela here is not just a formality, but it seems like it would work even in below shishim if you were cut on the side.
Yeah. Well, why? Because he says now. Look what he says. Next three words. She asked me to put the chalav shabala. I feel aim the Yoreh shishi. Is that what you mean? The next three words? Yeah, it's going the Rambam, right?
Well, also because otherwise there's no nafkamina.
Right. There's no. Let's give a full sentence for that. Otherwise,
I mean, I think the Beis Yosef gets into this, but that like if the Tzimus Kefela is not referring to even when there's less than shishim, there's no nafkamina between whether it's when you've like before it's finished its raticha or not, because either way, since we don't again, like for the Rambam who paskins batel, right?
Yeah.
Either way, it would just be shishim.
But I'm not sure I'm still in agreement with that. I am in agreement. But no St. Tom is the deal, no, or not? Lexi, are we
Sorry,
agreement on that?
Can you repeat that?
That no St. Tom is the deal breaker.
Well, right. I mean, obviously part of what we get into with when we need to switch to the shishim here, and again, I think the basis of talks about this is that like our concern with why we just use shishim and not the kfela when you don't manage to get it out before it gets off the reticha is that then you have like the milk be re-expelled. That's min b'mino, and we just don't think you can like la mod al atam. Right. So then you need just stam shishim.
So Alan would want to say it philosophically, would point to the fact that Maimonides, right, the same guy as the Rambam sometimes, that Maimonides was an idealist and therefore tries to talk about the perfect situation. And in the perfect situation, we don't want to have, so we want to have Sea Lake and all the rest. But then, of course, we give it over to the kefela if not. Okay, the tamo, kefela, the ink, all these. Okay, what I'm saying to you is the following. The principles are all in play here. A good shear would not just list these, but would try to make a statement about what is the most important principle for each one. I've made some indications about that. But my real point is they're all in play, and different ways of seeing it will have different emphasis in terms of that. Because one could say, it's all about shishim. Well, for the Rambam, it's not all about shishim, except that if you got nothing else, you got shishim. So but that's not an ideal way of dealing with it, because shishim, as I said, is a what did I say? It's a cure, not a cure. It's a cure or something for damage already done. L'chadchila, you try to more in a deal thing, never to have that problem to begin with. The tamo kefela, the ain kan, the tamo kefela, the ain kan tam bas b'cholav mutter, kevin shalom nimuach sham mamashosh abasor, the ain kan ella pleitats basor, right? Oh, I'm sorry. The ain ella pleitato, so we pleitato. What's the next word in the line? V'lo yodana, right? We don't know. Kamahu, somchim ala kefela, lahakel, afilo, the pachos v'shishim. Now, I would say here, the word lahakel here is just how the effect is. It seems to be a kula, but it doesn't mean it's a kula in terms of the force of halacha. Because if you do say for the Rambam that tam is the real thing, if the kefela says there's no tam here, that would override the lack of shishim, because tam is what's really important. But the use of the word kula is not that it's less than ideal. It's a kula, I think, in the sense it's just, we're not going to give a bad conclusion. He couldn't do it. And that Isur Chov is now spreading, contagion. At what point then? Afterwards, Vainbo Tam. What's the next word? Tam Basor, Clow. I feel Hachi Osir. Wait, I didn't catch that. Who understands that line?
Because then it's min b'mino and he can't taste it. So because then it's got milk.
Then it's min b'mino and he can't taste it. Well, Rabbana, now we'll go to the other side. Let's get the rabbis. Rabbana damri min b'mino batil. You can have a real that. Sorech she'ehei shishim b'chalav, or against the chalav. Shishim keneged hachalav. Keshira chaticha. And that's it. The Yesh L'Daktek B'divrei Rambam. I think that's enough. Well, no, maybe we'll do the Daktek B'divrei Rambam. Maloma Hutzrach Litain Tam Look at Shalosi, like when he didn't take it out, Sharim also Shishim, Bibnei Sheh, Hachalav, Shenipla Bo, the Nefar, Yotzav and Itarev Im Hashar, the Tam Zeh, Lo Itzrich Elamanda Osirla, Afil Be'elef. Mishum Demim Bino, Lo what? Mishum, I'm sorry, Lo Bato. Aval L'Didan, the Pasuk command Omer, Min B'Mino Bato, because we're like Rabbeinu Tam, we're not like Rashi, right? Lo Habat Sorech L'Hai Tama, Ela Listom. Well, Listom, Misharimo Tabashishim. What does it mean, Listom here? It just nails, I think what it means here. Be interesting to see if Nachum. It means just to nail down the kashrut. If we have shishim, then for sure we have our belt and we have our slakas, we have our whatever those are called. We have our braces or whatever they call them in England, suspenders. El listom misharim tabashishim. After Jerusalem chotam zem mishum di lav hachi. I feel lo kodam sicha havelei u'mishrei ayidei timias fela aroma sheomar shein bo tam basar abal hashta sha'anu osrimo so b'nei shachalav shenibu hababasar the ne'asar yotzav v'yitarev im shar chalav havelei min b'mino v'yefshar l'meikam atama, because that's our special din there of min b'mino. Let's do a next paragraph. Okay, so let's see here. Yavni, would you read? The Tam Rabbeinu.
Yeah. וטעם רבנו נראה שהוא מפני שסובר, כמו שכתב סמ"ג, דהא דאמרינן כגון שנפל לתוך יורה של חלב רותחת, מבלע בלע, מפלט לא פליט, פירושו שמה שבולע השתא אינו פולט. שמה שבולע השתא אינו פולט. שכל זמן שאינו נח מרתיחתו אינו פולט, אבל מה שבלע קודם לכן הוא פולט. שהרי דבר הנראה לעיניים, כשנותנים ירק בקדרה רותחת, משתנית מרית המים ומוריק. בשר שמן נימוח בתוכה ונראית שמנית על הרוטב עד כאן לשונו.
Right, this is our Rabbeinu Tam, right?
Right.
Tosfos, I should say.
Yeah, it was oh yeah, but וכן כתב הר"ן בשן רבנו תם, דלפי זה לא מהנה קדם וסילקו, אלא לשלא יחזור ויפלוט, לא מהנה שקדם וסילקו, אלא, קדם וסילקו, אלא לשלא יחזור ויפלוט החלב שבלע ולהווה מין במינו, אבל לעולם פולט הוא טעם בשר, אף על פי שקדם וסילקו. So this was the point that
there's a point that we were asking a question on. What's the use of kadam basilik?
Wait, what's the use?
So what does he say here?
The use of kadam v'silek is to avoid the milk that has gotten absorbed into the meat re-emitting into the milk, but it doesn't
like
the meat flavor emitting into the milk.
That's like it's like the monster movie in which we think the monster's dead, and then in the last, when they're doing the credits, all of a sudden he comes off from the grave. This is here, this monster, right, keeps on re-emitting, as you said, re-emitting. לפיכך,
כל שקדם וסילקו, אם אין בחלב שישים כנגדו, אסור דבכולי משערינן. So therefore, right, if you didn't take it out quickly, no, even if you did take it out quickly, if you don't have enough milk to batel the piece, then it's a sul because we are misharin against the whole thing because we don't because we don't know how much of the meat flavor came out of it.
Okay, good. Now that's enough for this.
Okay.
Let's at least look a little bit at that and see what the tour says.
Wait a second, Rabbi, can I interrupt here for a second?
Please.
Wait, do you hear me?
Yes, I'm waiting.
Just before you go on to bed, I just want to let me just summarize just quickly what he just said, and I want to read one line. The summary is that we're questioning why did the tour say just measure in shishim? He should have surely said this thing that we learned in Tosfot, that it depends whether you take it out or you don't take it out quickly. And he should have said that if you took it out quickly, so then you could have a goy taste, but only if you didn't take it out quickly, then it's min b'mino and you need to have 60. So that's basically his question. And we're left with sort of a question. And if you read though, the last line right before bet, he says, the last line there, he says, I'm skipping a little bit, but he says, Le Perush Zeh. You see, everyone see that last line there? So it says, Le Perush Zeh, without getting to the Perush, Le Perush Zeh, Lo Nitba'er B'Gemara Shiur Zeh. According to this, the time that you have to take it out, how quickly is it? Is it a second? Is it 10 seconds? We don't know. The Efshar Sheken Hu Dat Rabbeinu. And it's possible that is the dot of the tour. And I have in square brackets. I have in brackets the Rambam, but I'm going to read it without the Rambam because I think it makes more sense.
But I think this is within a quote at the end of this. Anyway, you can go.
Yeah, it is a quote. It is a quote. It is a quote, right? So you're right. We should go look and where it's being quoted from.
It's the Magi Mishnah, I think. So it's got to be the Rambam.
That's why it's the
Rambam. It's got to be the Rambam. But I'm going to read it anyway. That it's talking. It's going to answer our question. Is my point. It's going to answer our question whether it's the Rambam or not. It's going to answer our question. Sheken hu dat Rabbeinu. Okay, Harambam. But ve'ein zeh talui ela ba'omed hadat. But I want to say maybe I'm reading more into it than it's there. But I think the dot of the tour is like this. Since we don't know the shiur, we can't, that's why the tour says it's always a shishim. Because we can't rely on a goy to tell us because maybe we left it in a few seconds too long and then all of a sudden the milk came out. I think that might be what the tour is saying when he says
just repeat that. The tour is saying, just repeat.
The tour is saying you always need shishim. Why do you always need shishim? Because we can never be sure that you got the piece out quickly enough.
I agree with what I'm sorry. I agree with how you did that, but I would just add the following. Thank you. No, really, thank you. But I would just add that there is a reluctance, I mean, in terms of how they're learning it out, to only rely on shishim to make this a one principle. What happens if you don't have shishim? So we have so they talk about timas kfela. What if we don't have shishim? Well, maybe it's like shishim. So that's the only thing I would say. So therefore, we come back and rely on shishim. It's a very narrow way of looking at methods of solving the problem. But I agree with what you said. And therefore, the other ways that fine. Let me look at one thing with you in the Yeshkaya, thank you. In bet of the Torah. Tipa, okay. Jacob, read two couple lines here. Tipa cholav.
Tipa cholav sunaf la chatichat basar sebakdera. Im yespa shishim levatel hacholav l'tarat. V'im lav asura v'in ashar sebakdera mitzarif ima levatel hacholav.
Okay.
drop of milk.
And one more part of Perishri.
Perishri Davka Shekol Haticha Chutz L'Rotav Kagon Haticha Shtakta Sat Chutz L'Rotav V'Zomen Nachnalaha Dechula Chutz L'Rotav.
Okay, good. Abol Yimixatav Rotav. The rotav reticham ba'arevet hatam b'chol kedera b'komet saref l'batel cholav. So you need that. In other words, so we're talking about the mechanisms of distribution. But right before V'dash kosav rabbeinu, you need shishim. Look at the beginning of the Beis Yosef. V'dash kosav rabbeinu im yesh bo shishim l'batel cholav muteres v'im lav asura. The one principle way of looking at it. But as he points out, Eino el l'divrei sovrim, the timat kefela eino matir ela b'di'ika shishim. Right? That fits that. And by the way, matir is a very strong term. Because, avodat rov ha'poskim sovrim, the timas kefela matir afal gav the leka shishim. And that makes what into a strong principle. It's manifested by the tasting of the non-Jewish cook, timat kefela arama. It's manifested that way. But what principle is it? Of no same time. Shishim is a mathematical solution to what do we do if we're having trouble achieving Te'imah. But Te'imah, according to the Divrei HaSovrim, Te'imah is an principle, and Shishim is a backup principle. And when we, meaning us, when we don't have the practical usage of Te'imah, therefore the whole notion of no Saint Tom becomes non-existence. We replace it with a mathematical formula of Shishim. But the mathematical formula of Shishim is not bring back the Kefela Aroma. Okay? I'm going. You should see the posters I have in my hand when I go out protesting. It'll be just as effective as the other ones. And now I have one more comment to say. V'dafka b'shalom nir kadera, go down. Miyad kishanot al chalav v'gam lo kiso so miyad right near kadera kisos al kol mitzvah v'tachalav. Right. Dina newer it's in the Mishnah. Fine, forget that. Go down to Kosav Marin Rabbeinu Yaakov Ibn Chabib Zal Mitoch Divrei Haran Yisbarucha Shemash Omar Rabbeinu Yaakov Tam V'davka B'Shalo Nir HaKedera Hu Nekasher Im Perush Rashi Ve'eno Musav Gam Al Perush Ri Ki Wadas Ri Ein Sorach L'Nir HaKedera Ela Shetiyeh Ketzata Barota. So in other words, what this whole thing talks about, what can be the equivalent of Nir and Kisa? We have Nir, and the Gemara says Nir v'Chisa, and Rashi explains for us why Chisa works out. But is there Nir already? We have some other way of Nir, and what's the equivalent of Nir? The Chaticha is in the Rotav. The Rotav can be, according to this opinion, Dasari ain't sorach l'nir hakadera el shtiyeh ketzata b'rotav. Aval aperish Rashi afal pisha mixata b'rotav mixata So you're, when he says near means near, and it doesn't mean rotav. He also a near molich hatifa b'chol kedera u'mesayeh kol ma shebetocha levatel hatifa. These are these methodologies. V'chein kasher kisa kedera olota b'tichut mishuleha lepila u'molechet hatipa b'chol kedera. V'after yachzor gam al perushri shegam kasher tiyeh achaticha chutz l'rotav dai b'shekisa hakadera la'reva kol afal pi shoti kames. They say it goes so far that once we've said that the chasa is the equivalent of near, we don't even need rotav in any form or fashion because kisa, we don't have near. There's no near if it's all dry, but you still have kisa, and if you have 12 pieces in there, and you have a chaticha that is usher is min b'mino, and that's sufficient because that's what's molech, the vapors are molech, and therefore it would say, and when you have a rotav, you need near. We should go against it goes against rotav. And nonetheless would be usher. The kol shekain b'nior, when we have a rotav. That's clear. You need an action to repel that first, and that explains the machlokas. And it continues here. And I'm missing out because I spent a long time kvetching on the Gemara. So Yeshikoyach. Yeshikoyach. Go on a flight tomorrow night, and I'll miss next week, but I'll hopefully be back from Arizona and other places and other warm places. Okay. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Thank you.